Ethan Cole liked the night sky. He was a student who studied stars at Lakewood University. Most nights he sat alone in the tall building with the big telescope. His teachers and friends had all gone home. Ethan didn't mind being alone. He found the stars better company than most people. Tonight was like any other night. Ethan looked through the large telescope, writing notes about what he saw. The moon was bright, and the stars twinkled in the dark sky. He sipped his cold coffee and checked his watch. It was after midnight. Then he saw something strange. A light moved across the sky in a way that stars and planes don't move. It wasn't a shooting star. It wasn't a satellite. This light zigzagged, stopped, then started again. "What is that?" Ethan whispered to himself. He adjusted the telescope to follow the strange light. The light grew bigger and brighter. It was coming closer to Earth. Ethan's heart beat faster as he realized the object was heading toward the forest near the university. He watched as it descended, leaving a trail of blue light behind it. Then it crashed. There was no big explosion, just a flash of light between the trees. Ethan sat frozen for a moment. Should he call someone, the police, the army, his professor? But what would he say? That he saw a strange light fall from the sky? They might think he was crazy or had fallen asleep at the telescope again. No, he needed to see for himself first. Ethan grabbed his backpack, shoved in a flashlight, his phone, and a water bottle. He ran down the spiral stairs of the observatory and out into the cool night air. The forest was dark and quiet. Ethan turned on his flashlight and followed the path that led from campus into the trees. He knew these woods well from daytime walks, but at night everything looked different. He walked for 20 minutes, going deeper into the forest than he usually did. Then he saw it, a faint blue glow between the trees ahead. Ethan moved forward slowly now, his heart pounding in his chest. In a small clearing stood an object unlike anything Ethan had ever seen. It was about the size of a small car but shaped like a teardrop. Its surface was smooth and shiny, changing, colors like oil on water. Blue, purple, and silver rippled across its surface. Steam rose from the ground around it, and the grass was scorched in a perfect circle. "This isn't possible," Ethan whispered. He raised his phone to take a picture, but it wouldn't turn on. None of the buttons worked. It was as if something was blocking the power. Then a seam appeared in the side of the object. It widened into an opening and light poured out from inside. Ethan ducked behind a tree, peeking out to watch. A figure stepped out of the light. At first glance, it looked like a woman, but as Ethan looked closer, he knew she wasn't human. She was tall and slender with long limbs. Her skin had a light purple color that seemed to glow slightly in the dark. Her hair was white like starlight and floated around her head as if she were underwater. But most striking were her eyes, large, silver, and without pupils. They shone like mirrors in her face. She wore a tight-fitting suit that seemed to be made of the same color-changing material as her ship. Patterns of light moved across it like circuits on a computer board. The woman, or whatever she was, stumbled as she stepped onto the earth. She put her hand against a tree to steady herself. Then she looked around, her strange eyes scanning the forest. Ethan tried to back away quietly, but he stepped on a dry branch. It snapped loudly in the quiet forest. The alien woman turned toward the sound. Her eyes found Ethan immediately, even in the darkness behind the tree. "Do not run," she said. Her voice was musical but clearly English. "I mean no harm." Ethan stepped out from behind the tree, his hands raised to show he had no weapons. "Who are you?" he asked, his voice shaking. The alien woman stood straighter, a look of pride crossing her face. "I am Lyra, Crown Princess of the Astari Confederation." Then her face changed, showing pain and fear. "And I am a refugee. My world has fallen." She took a step toward Ethan, then swayed on her feet. Ethan rushed forward without thinking and caught her before she fell. She was surprisingly light in his arms, and her skin was cool to the touch. "You're hurt," Ethan said, noticing a dark liquid that must be blood seeping through her suit near her side. "My ship's emergency landing was less than ideal," Lyra said with a weak smile. "I need to hide. They will be looking for me." "Who? Who's looking for you? Ethan asked. Lyra looked, up at the sky. The Vorkath. They have taken my world. They will take yours too if they find me here. She gripped Ethan's arm with surprising strength. Your planet is in danger, and you, human, are now my only hope. Ethan's mind raced. This had to be a dream, or a joke. Aliens weren't real. Space princesses weren't real. But the woman in his arms felt real. The ship gleaming in the clearing was real, and the fear in her strange silver eyes was definitely real. My name is Ethan, he said finally. I have an apartment near campus. We can go there. You'll be safe. Lyra nodded. My ship must not be found. It has a cloaking system. She pulled a small device from her belt and pressed it. The ship shimmered and then seemed to fade until it was nearly invisible, just a slight distortion in the air. That won't last long without power, she said. We must return soon. Ethan helped Lyra walk through the forest toward campus. She was weak, but determined. As they walked, Ethan had a strange feeling. His normal life of classes and research had just ended. Something bigger had begun. Something that would change not just his life, but maybe the lives of everyone on Earth. The night was quiet around them as they made their way out of the forest. Above, the stars continued to shine, but Ethan now wondered what else, or who else, might be up there, looking down on Earth, and whether they were coming in peace like Lyra, or with much darker intentions. 3 weeks passed since Ethan found Lyra in the forest. She now lived in his small apartment near campus. It wasn't easy to hide an alien, but they managed. Ethan told his friends he was busy with a special research project. It wasn't really a lie. Lyra's wound had healed quickly. Her body could fix itself faster than human bodies. She explained many things about her people, the Astari. They looked like humans, but were different in important ways. They lived longer. They were stronger. And they could connect their minds to their technology. My people have watched Earth for a long time, Lyra said one evening as she fixed part of her ship's control panel. Ethan had helped her bring small pieces of the ship to his apartment. Hundreds of your years. Ethan sat on his couch, watching her work. Her fingers moved quickly, touching wires and strange materials he didn't recognize. Why didn't you ever say hello? He asked. Lyra smiled. My people think humans are not ready. You fight too much. You destroy your own planet. But you also create beautiful things. You are complicated. Ethan nodded. He couldn't argue with that. We call Earth a protected world. Lyra continued. We watch, but we don't interfere. We wait for you to grow up as a species. So what changed? Why are you here now? Ethan asked. Lyra's face grew serious. The Vorkath. They don't care about rules or protection. They take what they want. They took my world. She looked down at her hands. I am the last of the royal line. My blood carries special abilities. The Vorkath want these abilities to make their war machines stronger. Ethan had learned that Astari royalty had stronger mental powers than regular Astari. Lyra could connect deeply with her ship, becoming almost one with it when she flew. How? Do we fix your ship? Ethan asked. I want to help, but this technology is way beyond me. You are helping more than you know, Lyra said. Some parts I can fix. Others need special materials that don't exist on Earth. But the main computer and engines will work. Enough to send a message to any Astari who survived. A knock on the door made them both freeze. Lyra quickly covered the ship parts with a blanket. Ethan went to the door and looked through the peephole. A woman stood there. She wore a dark suit and had short brown hair. She looked official. Ethan Cole? She called through the door. I need to speak with you. It's about the unusual energy readings coming from your apartment. Ethan looked back at Lyra. Panic on his face. She stood up and whispered, See what she wants, I will hide. Ethan opened the door slightly. Who are you? The woman held up a badge. Madeline Wright, Department of Energy Special Projects Division. May I come in? Do you have a warrant? Ethan asked, trying to sound braver than he felt. No, Madeline said. But I think you'll want to hear what I have to say. It's about what crashed in the forest 3 weeks ago. Ethan's heart sank. Someone knew. He looked back at Lyra, who had heard everything. She gave a small nod. Ethan opened the door. Madeline walked in and stopped when she saw Lyra. I knew it, she said quietly. You're not human. How did you find us? Ethan asked. Your observatory reported strange readings the night of the crash. Then your apartment started giving off energy signatures that don't match anything we know. I've been watching you for a week. Madeline turned to Lyra. What are you? And are there more of you coming? Lyra stood tall. I am Princess Lyra of the Astari. And yes, others will come. But not my people. The ones who destroyed my world. The Vorkath. They will follow me here. Madeline's face paled. Are they hostile? They destroy worlds, Lyra said simply. They will not ask permission to take yours. For a long moment, Madeline was quiet. Then she said, Show me everything. If this is real, we need to prepare. Over the next few hours, Lyra explained about the Astari and the Vorkath. She showed Madeline her technology and the repairs she was making. This is beyond anything we have, Madeline said, examining a small power cell that glowed blue. If the Vorkath have even better technology. They do, Lyra confirmed. Their ships are bigger, their weapons stronger. They turn planets into deserts to take what they want. We need to tell my superiors, Madeline said. No, both Ethan and Lyra said at once. If too many humans know, there will be panic, Lyra explained. The Vorkath will detect large movements of people or weapons. Right now, they don't know exactly where I am. We have time to prepare quietly. Madeline thought for a moment. You're right. Mass panic would make us vulnerable. She looked at Ethan. But we need help. I know some people, scientists, military, who can keep secrets. A small team. Ethan wasn't sure. How do we know we can trust them? You don't, Madeline said, honestly. But you trusted me, and I'm not running to tell the world about aliens. Some people can handle the truth, Ethan, and we'll need them if we want to save our planet. Lyra put a hand on Ethan's shoulder. She's right. I can't do this alone. We need help? Ethan nodded slowly. Okay, but a small team, and we're careful about who we tell. Agreed, Madeline said. I'll make some calls tomorrow. For now, show me everything you're working on. I want to understand what we're up against. As Madeline and Lyra talked about technology and defense plans, Ethan watched them. Just a month ago, his biggest worry was finishing his astronomy paper. Now he was part of Earth's first alien defense team. It seemed impossible. That night, after Madeline left with promises to return with help, Ethan couldn't sleep. He stood by his window looking up at the stars. Can't sleep? Lyra asked, coming to stand beside him. No. Everything's changed. I feel like I should be more scared than I am. Lyra looked at him with her silver eyes. Fear doesn't help. Action does. You're doing something, Ethan. That's brave. I'm not brave, Ethan said. I'm just here. In the right place at the right time. Or the wrong place at the wrong time, Lyra said with a small smile. Depends on how you look at it. She touched his hand lightly. There's something you should know. The neural interface in my ship, the way I connect my mind to it, it might affect you. What do you mean? Ethan asked. You've been helping me. Test it. Human minds aren't made for our technology, but yours seems compatible. I've noticed changes in your brainwaves. Nothing dangerous. But you might start to see things differently. Like how? Patterns, connections, the way my people see the universe. Lyra looked concerned. I should have warned you earlier. Ethan thought about the strange dreams he'd been having. Stars and planets he'd never seen. Feelings and thoughts that didn't seem like his own. It's okay, he said. If it helps us fix your ship and stop the Vorkath, it's worth it. Lyra nodded but didn't look convinced. Get some rest, Ethan. Tomorrow we start building Earth's first alien defense system. As Ethan finally fell asleep that night, he dreamed of stars again. But this time they sang to him in Lyra's voice. And somehow he understood their song. The bunker became their new home. It was small but safe, hidden in the mountains about an hour from town. Madeline had stocked it with food, water, and basic equipment. Most importantly, it had a secure communication system that couldn't be tracked. Lyra was getting weaker. The Earth's atmosphere wasn't toxic to her, but it lacked elements her body needed. Her skin was losing its purple glow and her silver eyes seemed dimmer. You need medical help, Ethan said, watching her rest on a cot in the corner. Your doctors can't help me, Lyra said. My biology's too different. Madeline was busy contacting trusted people in the government and military. Earth needed to prepare for the Vorkath, but without causing panic. It wasn't easy. Most of them think I'm crazy, she told Ethan and Olivia after another long phone call. Even with the deep space readings, they don't want to believe we're about to be invaded. Can't we just show them Lyra? Olivia asked, and risk someone else like Eleanor getting their hands on her? No, Madeline shook her head. We need to prove the threat is real in a way they can't ignore. Meanwhile, Ethan spent every moment he could with Lyra, trying to strengthen their neural connection. Without her ship, they had to improvise. Lyra had saved a small neural device, a simple version of the band Ethan had used before. Focus, Lyra said as they sat cross-legged facing each other. The small device sat between them, glowing faintly. Feel the energy moving between us. Ethan closed his eyes. The humming in his head had become a constant companion now. He could sense Lyra's presence like a bright light in his mind. I can feel you, he said. You're worried, in pain? Lyra nodded. Yes, the connection is growing stronger, but we need more. Each session lasted longer. Each time Ethan could sense more. Not just Lyra's feelings, but her memories, her knowledge. Images of her home world filled his dreams. A beautiful planet with 2 moons and cities that seemed to grow. From crystal mountains, he saw the Vorkath attack through her eyes, massive ships darkening the sky, terrible weapons turning cities to ash. And something else was happening to Ethan. His body was changing. He could see better in the dark. His hearing became sharper. And sometimes, when he touched the bunker's computers, he could sense the information flowing through them. It's the neural link, Lyra explained when he told her. Your body is adapting, trying to match what it connects with. My DNA has a component that lets us interface with technology. Somehow your body is mimicking it. Is that even possible? Ethan asked. No, Lyra said honestly. It should not be possible, but it's happening. On the second day in the bunker, Olivia returned from a recon mission to the warehouse. Her face was grim. The ship is gone, she reported. Eleanor and her Vorkath friend must have moved it. That makes things harder, Madeline said, but we have a new problem. She turned on a small TV in the bunker. The news showed strange events happening around the world. Unusual storms, electronic failures, and sightings of unknown aircraft. The Vorkath are already here, Lyra said, watching the screen. These are their scout ships preparing for the main fleet. What are they doing? Ethan asked. Setting up harvesting points, Lyra's voice was bitter. They'll take what they want. Resources, genetic material, technology. Then leave your world a husk. How do we stop them? Olivia demanded. We need my ship, Lyra said. With it, we could contact any surviving Astari, or at least disrupt the Vorkath communications. Madeline's secure phone rang. She answered it, listened for a moment, then turned to the others. That was my contact at the Deep Space Monitoring Station. The main Vorkath fleet has accelerated. They'll be here by tomorrow morning. The room fell silent. They were running, out of time. There's something else we could try, Lyra said finally. She looked at Ethan. But it's dangerous. For both of us. What is it? Ethan asked. A full neural merge. My mind and yours completely connected. It might let us locate my ship through its energy signature. And she hesitated. It might give you enough of my abilities to help fight the Vorkath. What's the risk? Madeline asked. It could kill us both, Lyra said simply. Or worse, merge us permanently. Neither human nor Astari, but something in between. Ethan thought about his life before he found Lyra. His classes, his research, his small apartment. It all seemed so distant now, like someone else's memories. Let's do it, he said. Madeline and Olivia protested, but Ethan's mind was made up. That night they prepared for the neural merge. Lyra created a circle of small devices around them, each glowing with the same blue light as her ship had. Once we start, we can't stop until it's complete, she warned. Are you sure about this? Ethan nodded. I'm sure. They sat facing each other in the center of the circle. Lyra took Ethan's hands in hers. Her skin felt cool and smooth. Close your eyes, she instructed. Feel the connection we've already built. Now imagine it growing stronger, like a bridge between our minds. Ethan did as she said. The humming in his head grew louder, becoming a song with words he almost understood. He felt Lyra's presence grow stronger, filling his thoughts. Then it happened. The barrier between their minds fell away. Ethan saw Lyra's entire life, her childhood in crystal palaces, her training to become ruler, her escape as her world burned. He felt her fear, her loss, her determination to survive. And Lyra saw him. His lonely childhood watching stars, his struggle to connect with others, his wonder when he found her in the forest. She felt his confusion, his growing affection for her, his willingness to risk everything. Their minds twisted together, knowledge and memories flowing back and forth. Ethan learned in moments what had taken Lyra years to learn. How to sense energy fields, how to connect with technology, how to see the patterns that bound the universe together. The blue lights around them grew brighter, then shot upward in a column of energy. Outside the bunker, the night sky lit up like day for a brief moment. Then it was over. Ethan opened his eyes. The world looked different. He could see energy flowing through everything. The walls, the equipment, even Madeline, and Olivia, who stood watching with amazed expressions. Lyra was still holding his hands. She looked healthier, her purple skin glowing again. But her silver eyes widened when she looked at Ethan. Your eyes, she whispered. They're like mine now. Madeline handed Ethan a small mirror. His eyes had changed. They were still their original color, but now they shimmered with silver light, just like Lyra's. Did it work? Olivia asked. Can you find the ship? Ethan closed his eyes again, reaching out with his new senses. He could feel energy signatures all around him, most unfamiliar. But one felt like home, like Lyra. It was distant but clear. I can feel it, he said. It's about 30 miles from here, underground. Eleanor must have hidden it in one of the old mining tunnels, Madeline said. We can be there in an hour. There's something else, Ethan added. I can feel other signatures too, stronger ones, different. They must be the Vorkath ships. How many? Olivia asked. Ethan concentrated. At least a dozen small ones already on Earth, and more coming, big ones. They'll be here by morning. They gathered what equipment they could and loaded it into Madeline's car. As they drove through the night toward the hidden ship, Ethan felt strange. His body tingled, and sometimes his hands seemed to glow with the same light as Lyra's skin. What's happening to me? He asked Lyra quietly while Madeline drove. The neural merge changed you more than I expected, Lyra said. Your DNA is adapting, becoming partly Astari. It shouldn't be possible, but... She shook her head in wonder. Your species is more adaptable than we thought. Will I still be... me? Lyra touched his face gently. Yes, but more than you were before. You're becoming something new, Ethan. Something neither human nor Astari has seen before. The road wound through dark mountains. Above them, the stars seemed to pulse with new meaning. Ethan could almost hear them now, like distant voices calling to him. We're close, he said as they turned onto a dirt road. The ship is just ahead. They stopped at the entrance to an old mine. The opening was dark and forbidding, but Ethan could sense the ship inside, calling to him like a beacon. Eleanor will have guards, Madeline warned as they got out of the car. Let me go first, Ethan said. I can sense where people are now. As they approached the mine entrance, Ethan held up his hand. 2 guards just inside. They have weapons. Olivia pulled a small device from her pocket. Stun grenade. Cover. Your ears. She tossed the device into the mine entrance. There was a flash and a bang. They rushed in to find 2 men on the ground unconscious. This way. Ethan led them deeper into the mine. The tunnels were old but had been reinforced recently. Lights had been installed along the walls, and new equipment sat in some of the chambers they passed. Finally, they reached a large cavern. And there it was, Lyra's ship, still beautiful despite the damage. People in lab coats worked around it, scanning and taking samples, and standing next to the ship was Eleanor, directing the work. How do we get past them? Madeline whispered. There are at least 10 people in there. Ethan looked at Lyra. I have an idea, but you need to trust me. Lyra nodded. I do. Ethan stepped forward, into the light of the cavern. Eleanor, he called out. Everyone turned. Eleanor's face showed shock then fear. Ethan, how did you find us? Madeline kept her promise. Within a week, she brought a small team of trusted people to help. They set up a secret lab in an old warehouse near the edge of town. Ethan's professor gave him time off, thinking he was working on a special government project. That wasn't far from the truth. Dr. Eleanor Frost was the first expert Madeline brought in. She was a physicist who understood things even Ethan's professors didn't. With her help, they made fast progress on Lyra's ship. The power systems are unlike anything I've ever seen, Eleanor said, studying the glowing core of the ship. It doesn't use fuel like our rockets. It uses energy from, well, I'm not sure what to call it. We call it void energy, Lyra explained. It exists in the space between spaces. Eleanor's eyes lit up. Dark energy? You've harnessed dark energy? Lyra shrugged. If that's your term for it, yes. Eleanor took more notes, her fingers flying across her tablet. She always seemed most interested in the ship's weapons and the neural interface, the system that let Lyra connect her mind to the ship. Captain Olivia Banks came next. She was a pilot with short red hair and a no-nonsense attitude. She asked Lyra endless questions about how the ship flew and how the Vorkath ships might handle an Earth's atmosphere. Their main ships are too big to enter your atmosphere, Lyra told her. But their fighter craft are about twice the size of my ship. They're fast, but they turn poorly under gravity. Olivia nodded. That's good to know. Our jets might have a chance if they stay low and use tight turns. The small team worked day and night. Ethan split his time between the warehouse and his apartment. He still had classes to attend, though he could barely focus on them now. The strange dreams continued. Sometimes he woke up speaking words in Lyra's language, though he didn't know what they meant. One night, Ethan stayed late at the warehouse, helping Lyra test the neural interface. He sat in the pilot's seat of her ship, a thin metal band around his head. Focus on the lights, Lyra instructed. Don't try to control them, just feel them. Ethan stared at the glowing panels in front of him. At first, nothing happened. Then, slowly, he began to sense something, like a humming at the edge of his mind. The lights seemed to pulse with his heartbeat. That's it, Lyra said softly. You're connecting. The humming grew louder, and suddenly Ethan could feel the ship around him, not with his hands, but with his mind. It was like having new limbs he never knew existed. He could sense the energy flowing through the ship's systems, the damage still needing repair, the way the ship wanted to fly. Lyra, he whispered. I can feel it. She put her hand on his shoulder. That's not supposed to happen with humans. Your mind is adapting somehow. When Ethan finally took off the neural band, his head ached, but he felt strangely alive. Everything seemed sharper, clearer. He could see patterns in the warehouse walls, in the way people moved, in everything. "What's happening to me?" he asked Lyra later as they walked back to his apartment under the stars. "I'm not sure," she admitted. "The neural link might be changing how your brain works. My people spend years training before we can fully connect to our ships. You're doing it in weeks." Ethan wasn't sure if he should be worried or excited. "Is it dangerous?" Lyra hesitated. "Not exactly dangerous, but permanent. These changes won't go away." Before Ethan could ask more questions, his phone buzzed. It was a text from Madeline. "Emergency meeting, come back now." They hurried back to the warehouse. Madeline stood with Eleanor and Olivia around a computer screen. Their faces were grim. "What's wrong?" Ethan asked. Madeline pointed to the screen. "Our deep space monitoring station picked this up an hour ago." The screen showed several large objects moving toward Earth from beyond Mars. "The Vorkath?" Lyra asked, her voice tight. Madeline nodded. "We think so. They'll reach Earth in about 3 days." "But the ship isn't ready," Ethan said. "We need more time." "We'll have to work faster," Eleanor said. "I've made good progress on the weapons systems, and the neural interface is functioning at nearly 70%. Lyra frowned. "You've been testing the weapons? I thought we were focusing on the communications array first." Eleanor avoided her eyes. "I thought defense should be our priority." Something about Eleanor's tone made Ethan uneasy. He'd noticed her working alone often, taking scans and readings when she thought no one was watching. That night, Ethan couldn't sleep again. The humming in his head from the neural interface hadn't faded. He got up and checked his computer, reviewing the files they'd been collecting on the ship's repairs. Something didn't add up. Files were missing, detailed scans of the neural interface and weapons systems. He checked the system logs. Someone had copied those files at 2 a.m. 2 nights ago. Only 5 people had access to the system: him, Lyra, Madeline, Olivia, and Eleanor. Ethan's suspicions grew. He decided to check the warehouse. He took his bike and rode through the quiet streets. When he arrived, he saw a light on inside. Someone was there. He entered quietly through the back door. Voices came from the main area where the ship was kept. He crept closer and peered around a stack of crates. Eleanor stood by the ship with a man Ethan had never seen before. They were removing parts from the neural interface. "Is this all of it?" the man asked. His voice had a strange accent. "Everything I could get," Eleanor replied. "The converter, the main processor, and the genetic key. The Astari built safeguards into their royal ships. Only those with royal blood can fully activate them." The man nodded. "The Vorkath will be pleased. Your reward will be significant, Dr. Frost." Ethan couldn't believe what he was hearing. Eleanor was working with the Vorkath. She was stealing parts from Lyra's ship, parts they desperately needed. He backed away slowly, planning to call Madeline, but he bumped into a shelf, knocking over a tool. The noise echoed in the quiet warehouse. "What was that?" the man said sharply. Ethan ran. He heard footsteps behind him. The back door was too far. He ducked behind a large machine, trying to stay quiet. "Find whoever's there," Eleanor ordered. "No witnesses." Ethan heard the man moving through the warehouse, getting closer. He needed to warn the others. He pulled out his phone to text Lyra, but there was no signal inside the thick warehouse walls. The footsteps came closer. Ethan saw a shadow fall across the floor near him. He held his breath. A hand grabbed his shoulder. Ethan spun around, ready to fight, but stopped when he saw it was Olivia. She put a finger to her lips and pointed to a small door nearby. A way out. They slipped through the door into a narrow hallway that led outside. Once they were a block away from the warehouse, Ethan finally spoke. "Eleanor is working with the Vorkath. She stole parts from the ship." Olivia nodded grimly. "I've suspected her for days. She asks too many questions about the weapons. I came tonight to check on her." "We need to warn Lyra and Madeline," Ethan said. "Already did." Olivia held up her phone. "They're meeting us at the backup location. The Backup location was a small bunker Madeline had prepared outside town. By the time Ethan and Olivia arrived, Lyra and Madeline were already there. "How bad is it?" Madeline asked as soon as they walked in. "Bad," Ethan said. "Eleanor took critical parts of the ship, including something called a genetic key." Lyra's face went pale. "Without that, I can't fully control the ship. We can't send a distress signal to any surviving Astari. And the Vorkath ships will be here in 3 days," Olivia added. They all fell silent, the weight of their situation sinking in. Earth's first contact with alien life was about to become Earth's first interstellar war, and they were losing before it even started. "There might be another way," Lyra said finally, looking at Ethan. "The neural link we established, it's still active." "I can feel your mind, Ethan. You're changing, becoming something your species has never seen before." "What does that mean?" Ethan asked. "It means," Lyra said, her silver eyes gleaming in the dim light, "that you might be able to control my ship without the genetic key, if your mind continues to adapt." "Is that even possible?" Madeline asked. "I don't know," Lyra admitted. "But right now, it might be Earth's only hope." The sun rose over the mountains, painting the sky pink and gold. But it wasn't the only light in the morning sky. High above, new stars appeared. Stars that moved and grew larger by the minute. The Vorkath fleet had arrived. Lyra's ship rose, from the mine entrance hovering above the trees. Inside, Ethan and Lyra worked as one, their merged minds guiding the ship's systems. Madeline and Olivia sat behind them, strapped into passenger seats. "My contact at the Deep Space Monitoring Station says they're tracking at least 7 large ships entering orbit," Madeline reported, looking at her secure phone. "The military is mobilizing, but they don't know what they're up against." "And they won't believe us until it's too late," Olivia added. "Even with the scout ships already here, most people think they're weather balloons or experimental aircraft." Ethan looked at the ship's main view screen. It showed the Vorkath fleet, massive vessels shaped like spears, their surfaces black and spiky. They were positioning themselves around Earth, preparing to launch smaller ships into the atmosphere. "We need to show the world the truth," Ethan said, "and we need to disrupt their communication system before they can coordinate their attack." Lyra nodded. "The main fleet takes orders from the command ship." She pointed to the largest vessel on the screen. "If we can interfere with their signals, the smaller ships won't know where to go or what to target." "Can this ship do that?" Madeline asked. "It's just one small vessel against their entire fleet." "This ship, no," Lyra admitted. "But with Ethan's new abilities and our merged minds, we might be able to amplify the signal disruptor beyond its normal capacity." Ethan felt the idea form in Lyra's mind and flow into his. It was dangerous. They would need to get close to the command ship in space and channel enough energy through themselves to boost the disruptor. "It could kill us," Ethan said quietly. "Yes," Lyra replied, "but it might save your world." Ethan looked at Madeline and Olivia. "We need to get a message to every government, every military base, show them what's happening, what's coming. Can you do that if we drop you off?" Madeline nodded firmly. "Yes, I have contacts in enough high places with proof they'll listen." "What proof?" Olivia asked. Lyra touched a panel, and a small crystal emerged from the console. "This contains data on the Vorkath, their weapons, their tactics, their weaknesses. It also has images of what they did to my world." "That should convince them," Madeline said, taking the crystal carefully. The ship descended near a military base. Madeline and Olivia prepared to disembark. "What will you two do?" Olivia asked Ethan and Lyra. "We're going up there," Ethan said, looking at the sky. "We'll try to disrupt their communications, give Earth time to prepare." Madeline put her hand on Ethan's shoulder. "You know you're coming back changed, right? Even if you survive, the government will have questions, lots of them." Ethan looked at his hands, which now had a faint purple glow like Lyra's skin. His reflection in the view screen showed eyes that shimmered with silver light. "I don't think I can ever go back to my old life anyway," he said. "I'm not fully human anymore." "You're still Ethan," Olivia said firmly. Don't forget that. After Madeline and Olivia left with the crystal, Ethan and Lyra turned the ship skyward. The engines hummed as they accelerated, pushing up through the clouds. Have you ever been to space? Lyra asked as the sky darkened around them. Only in my dreams, Ethan replied. And now in yours. The ship broke free of Earth's atmosphere. The blackness of space surrounded them, filled with stars more brilliant than Ethan had ever seen through his telescope. But ahead loomed the dark shapes of the Vorkath fleet, blocking out the stars like massive shadows. They've seen us, Lyra said as warning signals flashed across the console. Small fighters incoming. Ethan felt the ship's weapon systems through his mind. He knew how to use them without being told. Energy weapons powered up as several small, dart-like ships approached. Don't want to kill them, Ethan said. They won't show the same mercy, Lyra warned, but we can target their engines instead of their life support. The first shots from the Vorkath fighters streaked past them. Ethan guided their ship in a spiral pattern, dodging most of the fire. When he did fire back, he aimed carefully, disabling the enemy ships without destroying them. The command ship is ahead, Lyra said. We need to get closer to use the disruptor. More fighters appeared, forming a barrier between them and the massive command vessel. Ethan weaved through their formation, his mind working faster than should be possible, predicting their movements before they happened. A shot grazed their ship, making the shields flicker. Another hit their left engine, causing the ship to spin briefly before Ethan stabilized it. We can't take much more of this, he said. We don't need to, Lyra replied. We're close enough now. They were within range of the command ship, a monstrous vessel that dwarfed everything around it. Its surface was covered in weapons and communication arrays. Ready the disruptor, Lyra said, placing her hands on a special panel that glowed blue. Put your hands on mine. Ethan did as she asked. The moment their hands touched, energy surged between them. The neural link that connected their minds flared to new life, drawing power from both of them. Focus on the main communication array, Lyra instructed. Feel it. Find its frequency, then push against it with your mind. Ethan closed his eyes. Through their merged consciousness, he could sense the massive ship ahead. He could feel the signals pulsing from it. Orders to the fleet, targeting information, harvest coordinates. He focused on those signals, understanding their patterns. Then he pushed. The disruptor fired, not a visible beam, but a wave of energy that rippled through space. It struck the command ship's communications array, causing it to spark and flare. But it wasn't enough. More power, Lyra said, her voice strained. We need to give it more. Ethan felt her drawing energy from her own body, channeling it into the disruptor. He did the same, letting the strange new energy that filled him flow through his hands into the ship's systems. The disruptor fired again, stronger this time. The command ship's lights flickered. Its communication array began to crack and break. A part inside their ship, warning alarms blared. The console under their hands grew hot. It's working, Lyra said, her voice weak. But the ship can't handle this much power. Ethan felt the systems overloading around them. The neural interface was burning out. But the command ship's communications were failing too. The smaller Vorkath ships began to move erratically, their coordinated attack falling apart. One more pulse, Ethan said. Everything we have. They poured their remaining strength into the disruptor. Energy crackled around them, making the air itself glow. The ship shuddered as the final pulse fired, a wave of pure disruption that washed over the entire Vorkath fleet. The command ship's lights went out, its weapons powered down. The smaller ships drifted, no longer receiving orders, but Ethan and Lyra's ship was dying too. The console beneath their hands had melted, and the engines were failing. Emergency systems flashed warnings as they began to drift toward Earth, caught in its gravity. We did it, Lyra said softly, looking at the disabled Vorkath fleet. They can't coordinate their attack now. Earth has time to prepare. Ethan nodded, too exhausted to speak. Their ship was falling faster now, the heat of re-entry beginning to build around them. The emergency landing systems are damaged, Lyra reported, checking what few working controls remained. I can't slow our descent. Ethan looked at Earth growing, larger in the view screen. He thought of Madeline and Olivia, hopefully warning the world by now. He thought of his simple life as a student, looking at stars through a telescope. And he thought of Lyra, who had changed everything. I have an idea, he said. But you need to trust me completely. Lyra met his eyes. I already do. Ethan took her hands again. This time, instead of channeling energy into the ship, he drew what little power remained from its systems into themselves. Their bodies began to glow brighter, their merged minds expanding beyond the physical limits of the failing ship. We don't need the ship anymore, Ethan said, his voice strangely calm. We've become something more. As the ship broke apart around them in the upper atmosphere, a strange thing happened. Instead of dying in the vacuum of space or burning up in re-entry, Ethan and Lyra transformed. Their physical bodies seemed to dissolve into pure energy, a bright swirling light that contained their merged consciousness. They fell toward Earth, no longer as two beings in a ship, but as a single point of radiant energy. People looking up that morning saw what they thought was an unusual meteor, brilliantly colored in purple and silver, moving too slowly and too deliberately to be natural. The energy that was Ethan and Lyra touched down gently in the forest near Lakewood University, in the same clearing where they had first met. As they reconnected with the Earth, their physical forms began to reform, changed but alive. Ethan looked at his hands. The purple glow remained, and patterns like circuitry ran across his skin. Beside him, Lyra appeared more human than before, as if their merged existence had found a balance between their species. What happened to us? Ethan asked, his voice sounding strange to his own ears. We ascended, Lyra said in wonder. My people speak of it in ancient texts, a transformation beyond physical form. It takes our people centuries to achieve naturally. Somehow our merged minds and the